Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. All right, before we get to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I want to say thanks to everyone that is watching the show on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. That's always good for YouTube analytics stuff. So please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. If you're watching the show on Gunstreamer or Full 30, please make sure you like it and share it from there as well. Yeah, those are some new places where you can watch the show. If you'd like to support the show, you can get some Riding Shotgun patches and Riding Shotgun and Gungram stickers at ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com on the shop page. And all of that goes to help getting the stagecoach across America. All right, today we are coming to you from Mount Vernon, Virginia, and I have with me Stephen Gutowski, who is with The Reload. Before we shake hands, we are going to hand sanitize. This is Lead Slinger's hand sanitizer. They do make whiskey. You need two hands.
They have their own hand sanitizer.
They had their own hand sanitizer. They did this at the beginning of the pandemic, and
it's like a souvenir now.
It is. It is. It smells good.
It does.
It's good for the chicks. Stephen, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, here comes a car.
Oh. You ever gotten in an accident yet on the
I haven't been in an accident, and I haven't been pulled over.
Well, let's keep that streak going.
Right. I hope I didn't jinx myself.
Me too. I'm in the car here too. So.
Right. This would be bad. All right, so we are here at Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon is where George Washington used to live.
Yeah. You want to do like the little?
Yeah. Let's
go off this way.
Whoop. All right.
People can see.
See where we're driving. This is cool. This is the nice thing about having the dash cam.
Yeah. But there's a lot to do here because Mount Vernon is actually a private charity.
Oh, this doesn't help.
So it's not run. No.
Oh well.
All right. Well, you can go straight and then make a left. Yeah.
All right.
On the exit.
So it's a private place?
Yeah, it's a private charity. It's run by the Mount Vernon Women's Association, which is one of the first private charities to run like a historical group.
Oh, cool.
And so they bought the Mount Vernon.
Are we going to go to the same place?
Yeah, just go out here
there we go.
And then make the left there.
All right.
So they bought the house from one of Washington's descendants after it had fallen into like disrepair.
Yeah.
And they, they're like one of the first historical preservation societies.
Oh, cool.
And so it's actually, it does a lot because they're a private charity, so they have to raise a lot of their own money. Mm-hmm. And there's the sign and everything. But they do all kinds of cool stuff.
Really?
Yeah, they do Christmas tour, candlelight tours, where they bring in
that's cool.
They bring in a camel because George Washington brought in a camel for Christmas one year, and I
have healed, but this person let me go.
Yeah. And they do like horses and hounds, where George Washington helped create the American foxhound, and so he was a big fox hunter, and they'll have fox hunters from the modern era come out today and show.
That's cool.
Like kids can come and see the horses and the
That's
dogs.
pretty cool.
Yeah, they do all kinds of really, really amazing stuff. They make his old recipe of like whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a whole grist mill, and they do all kinds of stuff. And then they do like high level scholarly stuff. They have the George Washington Library. The presidential library is here as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it's beautiful here too.
So I can go buy some George Washington whiskey while
you could, yeah. It's in the gift shop.
Ain't it?
Yeah, it's cool.
That is cool. I think I might do that. I'm going to treat myself to something.
Yeah, you should.
When in France, do as the Romans.
The house is obviously on the Potomac River here.
Yeah.
in D.C. And, Virginia, D.C., Maryland, tri-state area. Potomac cuts right through them. And so his house, Mount Vernon, is right on the river. It's actually much smaller than you'd expect. It's very interesting because optically it's designed to look really big.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see any pictures of it from like a distance or in person from a distance,
Yeah.
it looks huge, but it's really smaller than like your average McMansion.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty fascinating.
That's pretty. I'm baffled. Like when you hear about our founding fathers, and you're like, George Washington was a surveyor. You're like, how much money first of all, what was the technology like for surveying back then?
Yeah.
And how much money do you make as a surveyor?
Well, he was also like he's a farmer. He invented like a special kind of barn. He did a lot of stuff where he innovated, and so he was wealthy, obviously, and he was a military man and highly respected in Virginia, obviously, and that's how he became the commander-in-chief for the Continental Army during the Revolution, and then later, obviously, the first president. But his house is right along the Potomac here, and the George Washington Parkway, which is what we're driving on here, goes from his house, where we just were, all the way into the city, past the Lincoln Memorial and onto the National Mall. So you can take this. There's also walking and biking trails along the side that you can take all the way into the city.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it runs along, of course, the Potomac, which is very beautiful, very scenic, especially right now.
With the
changing
foliage.
of the leaves.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So this is.
I love my gig.
It's probably the nicest part of like northern Virginia, and we're headed also into probably the nicest town, I guess, in northern Virginia. I would argue Old Town Alexandria, which is, as the name implies, is from the colonial era and even before that. So
very cool.
Very upscale part of the area, of course. Great restaurants and shopping there too. I sound like a tour guide.
You really do. This could be a gig for you. If the reload doesn't work out, maybe that's what you need.
But yeah, I've lived here for like 12 years or so,
that's great, man.
I'm into it. Yeah,
that is really cool.
Some of the stuff. Yeah, I'm from southeastern Pennsylvania, originally near Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I love it up there. But this area does have its charms for sure.
It does. It does. When I go other places, I think of all the cool history that is there. Like I was in Nashville a couple times this year, and I'm like, oh man, there's some cool stuff in Nashville. And you come down here, there's cool stuff here, and then I'm like, all right, I'm from Massachusetts, and
there's cool stuff historical stuff in Massachusetts,
right? And of course, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. I just think about going to work. You know? What I mean?
Like when I grew up near Valley Forge, or near Philadelphia. Philadelphia that whole area has a ton of history to it as well. Yeah. I grew up near the Brandywine battlefield, and I'm from Downingtown, Pennsylvania, which is on nearby Valley Forge, where at least, and not that you don't understand that the history is there, or in,
you just don't pay attention to it.
Independence Hall, all that stuff in Philly. It's just more normal when you grow up around it. So when you go somewhere to visit, like if I went up to Boston, that might be normal for you, all the historical stuff of the church and all just everything from the founding era. But to me, it would be, wow, that's exciting.
Well, I do like to say this. There's a place called the Beantown Pub, which is across the street from the Granary Burial Ground, which is where Sam Adams was buried. And it's the only place in the world where you can have a cold Sam Adams across the street from a cold Sam Adams.
There you go. Washington's body's back there if you want to check in with him.
All right. That would be kind of cool. Have a shot of the whiskey. Go check him out.
Yeah. Hang out with his corpse.
Right.
In his mausoleum.
The corpses. All right, let's talk about you, and let's talk about your involvement in all of all the stuff you're doing. You pay attention to a lot of the legal stuff. You grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania. How did you get into gun stuff? Did you grow up hunting or shooting? Was it something?
No, I didn't actually. That's the interesting thing, right? I run, a gun publication now. I've been a certified firearms instructor for a long time, and I didn't grow up with any of that. We grew up. I didn't have any guns around really. I mean, my mom had like a little .22 in the closet, but never used it for anything. Right. It had a little squirrel engraved on the stock.
That's funny.
But didn't grow up with guns at all. People around me hunt. I knew people whose parents hunted and they hunted in high school, but I didn't shoot my first gun until college. After college. So
wow.
After college. Yeah, after college. I got into writing about politics in college.
Okay. Started
my own blog at the time, and got some attention for that. Managed to get a job down here in DC, and then the first they used to have like a fun day, like a retreat for the staff, right? And the first one that I went to was at the boss's house, his mountain house, and one of the they had games that everyone would play, and one of the things they had was skeet shooting, and it was just like it was this skeet shooting with a pump action 12 gauge and just being hand thrown out into a field.
Oh my gosh!
Right, so
not really skeet shooting.
No, not what anyone
like shooting clays with a shotgun.
Yeah, not what people would imagine as your proper kind of skeet shooting, but it was so much fun. I think to that point I'd grown up being afraid of guns, not of being shot or anything like that. You know, I grew up in a suburban small town neighborhood, atmosphere, so there wasn't a lot of gun violence around me. So I wasn't afraid of being shot. I was afraid of recoil, right? Which I think is a very common fear among new shooters. Sure. Experience. And so I didn't want to shoot. I thought it would hurt, and it didn't. Right. So. Right. And I started with a 12 gauge shotgun.
Oh my gosh.
Which is not ideal.
Right.
Not what I would start someone on, but it worked out great. And I realized that it was a lot of fun, especially to hit the target. That was a great way to start in a sense, because it was reactive targets.
Oh my gosh, instant gratification, or not.
Right. But I was hitting them, so it was like, oh, this is cool. Awesome.
This is fun.
Yeah, and my first gun, this is funny. So I didn't know anything about guns still at that point.
Right.
I just knew that it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. And so I went out and bought a gun from Dick's Sporting Goods, right? And this is before everything.
Before they destroyed, millions of dollars.
Before they destroyed their business.
Well, I mean,
I bought a gun from them, and it was a H&R Partner pump, which is a cheap, Chinese knockoff of a Remington 870. And I bought this to do more skeet shooting. Yeah. Because that's what I had done. And it was a 20 gauge with a 22-inch barrel. Oh, it's just super long. It's pump action, and it weighed 100 pounds because it's a cheap knockoff of a Remington 870. And so it was such a terrible first gun. It's worth I still have it because it's worth basically nothing. It would only cost $200 something bucks when I bought it at the time, and so now I wouldn't give it to who. That's almost it'd be mean, right? To give it to someone.
Give it to someone you don't like.
Yeah, right. Because it's what is this? This is a gun that is not useful in any real way. Right. It's almost designed to not be useful for any specific task. Because
you could use it as a door jam.
Yeah, it's 20 gauge pump action that's really heavy, that has a 22-inch barrel, right? What is that? What use case do you have for that kind of gun?
If the stock is big enough, you can use it as an oar.
Yeah, there you go. But so that was my way in, and then I just got more into it over time and learned a lot more and bought more reasonable guns since then, and got into building ARs and things like that. It's just as part of my hobby, is for fun.
part of the process.
And then I moved into writing about it after that.
So the passion for writing, is this? You said you started your own blog in college. Was this was writing something you were always good at, and you did well in school, and all that kind of thing?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I've always been good at more first-person style, right? I started off being good at that, and then I learned over the years, especially at the Free Beacon, how to be a better journalist, a better hard news writing, right? Okay. So, which is a different style. So, first-person writing is more writing about from your perspective about something. And news writing is more about trying to convey an objective set of facts to somebody in a way that's not tainted by your own points of view as much as possible. Right. And so it's a different style of writing, obviously. But so I'd always been, I always had a knack for the former, but the latter I had to learn over time. And still learning. I think, you never stop learning, you never stop improving your writing if you're serious about it as a professional.
Sure. That's pretty cool. So how does that lead to...
this is Old Town, by the way.
This is Old Town.
Entering here, yeah.
All right.
So this, where George Washington went to church and stuff like that. It's all up here.
Old and historic.
Yeah.
This is cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. How does all that lead into... you start your own blog. How does that lead to getting to having a writing gig with... I mean, you recently got out of the... you started your own gun news outlet, but before that you're writing for the Washington Free Beacon, and you've written for a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah, I've written for a number of publications over the years. I have been lucky to receive a lot of offers to write for places like National Review and Washington Examiner and The Atlantic, and I think it's been great, and I've been happy to make that kind of contribution to be because my main goal with writing is just trying to inform people, right? It's trying to tell them what's going on in the world, trying to give them a better understanding of reality, right? Of what's happening around them. And I think that's especially important when it comes to guns and media reporting these days, because oftentimes reporting is filled with inaccuracies, unfortunately, when you especially about firearms. And I think that's a significant problem, which is something that I'm hoping to change with the Reload, right?
Yeah.
And with what I've been doing with my career generally up to this point, but the Reload is in particular is designed to be a publication that actually presents informed reporting about firearms. Sober and serious as well, but informed is a big part of it, like having the knowledge about how firearms work, what the firearms laws are, what the policy debates are over, the intricacies of all that, I think is really important when you're trying to cover any story relating to firearms, because otherwise you're going to be misleading people, and you see it just constantly.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, the media's, they come up with their own terms, and then sometimes it's a little frustrating when the pro gun folks use the same terms that the media uses, because then it kind of legitimizes their the term assault weapon and that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, language is important. That's the other thing as a reporter, as a writer. Like, language matters, and it's hard to have a constructive conversation if you don't have the same definition of terms. That's what you confuse and mislead a lot of people in that way.
Yeah.
And so that's another big part of the puzzle with how to show people the truth. And like, you could have reasonable disagreements over gun policy, or whatever, but you should start from a place where everyone understands what.
Right, it should start from a level playing ground where, hey, this is what we're working with.
Right. So that's what I find really important, and I try to help other reporters as well in the same way. I've had reporters from every major outlet have consulted with me over the years on different stories, and trying to be. I think a lot of reporters want to be accurate, and a lot of the mistakes come from a place of just ignorance, frankly. Like, they don't know better. Now they should, right? I mean, it's part of their job.
If this is what they're writing about, you would think they would know better.
A big part of the problem too is, obviously bias plays a role, certainly, but a big part of the problem too with the ignorance side of things is most outlets don't have somebody dedicated to this beat. They don't treat it like something that's worthy of continuing coverage by the same person. So oftentimes you'll have reporters who don't know, this is the first time they're writing about the subject, or they don't commonly write about it, and they're the ones assigned to cover it, and they make a lot of mistakes because of that, and they just don't have the knowledge base that's necessary. So that's like what sets the Reload apart in another way. Is like, this is what we do. We do guns, we do gun politics, gun policy. We don't do anything else,
Right.
And we have the knowledge.
That's kind of your lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you're going to stay.
So, that's one thing that I try to keep in mind and try to focus on with what we're doing in one way that I think we offer something different from what else is out there.
That's pretty cool.
And that includes the gun side too. A lot of people on the gun side, like gun media, will oftentimes be very informed about firearms, right? And you could tell you the muzzle velocity of, you know, any round that you ask them about, or the grain of any bullet. But oftentimes they don't know much about the political side of things. They don't know what's happening in DC. They don't really understand how the politics of this all works. And you see a lot of mistakes because of that. You see a lot of issues where, you know, the laws are played up to be about to pass when they're in reality have no chance of passing. That happens constantly.
I was talking to someone recently, and they were saying that they were just it's a relatively new person that's into gun stuff, and they're learning about the politics, and they're learning how legislation works and how a bill gets passed and all that kind of stuff. And they were talking with someone else that's been doing this for a while, and they said, hey, listen, don't worry about this one. This isn't going to go anywhere. And they're like, how do you know it's not going to go anywhere? They're like, yeah, we've been doing it for a long time. We just know.
Yeah.
And I guess that's something that's certainly going to come with experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the case. I mean, you have to have an understanding of how bills progress through the Senate or the House, and what it means when somebody introduces some crazy bill somewhere, whether or not that bill has any real chance of passing. Yeah. Because, frankly, oftentimes they don't have a chance of passing. You could probably go out here. And so, for instance, if a backbench congressperson introduces...
this probably was not a good way to go.
No cops there, thankfully.
Whew.
Yeah, apparently that was one way.
It was a one way and not the way we were going.
Yeah, that's all right.
All's well that ends well.
We didn't get hit or pulled over, so
this is a
streak is still going. but yeah, if a backbench congressman introduces a bill that says, hey...
Backbench congressman, what does this mean?
Backbench means like they're not in leadership position. They're not the whip, they're not the majority leader or the minority leader or whatever. Especially a backbench congressman from the party that's not in the majority, right? If let's say they introduce something that says, I want to ban all semi-automatic guns, which happens. Sometimes people will introduce that. And it's not that they don't mean it, right? Necessarily, but it's that they have no way of actually getting it passed into law because so another key point is like how many co-sponsors can they get on their bill? If they can get enough co-sponsors that it's a majority of the House, if we're talking about the House of Representatives and Congress, the U.S. Congress, then you start to take the bill more seriously.
Gotcha.
Because it's like, okay, well, if you've got 220 co-sponsors, then you're going to be able to pass this bill, presumably, because that's people basically saying, I'm going to vote for this bill. Yeah. But if you have one co-sponsor or no co-sponsors, then that bill's probably not going anywhere, even if there's someone in the majority, right? So do people? So I've seen a couple things. Even if it passes, right? You think about this, like right now, even if something passes the House, it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. So like you have to think through all these things. Gotcha. And so like for me, I don't want to mislead people into thinking that some bill is a real threat when it's not, because I see that happen a lot. Yeah. I guess that's going to take time, right? And time and experience and knowledge and understanding how all that stuff works. So the same way that I'm knowledgeable about guns, I'm knowledgeable about politics. Yeah. And that's really not something you see a lot of out there. Right? Not that I'm the only one, but right. Yeah, I was listening to some episodes of The Reload, and it was the podcast. The podcast. The Reload podcasts. It's on YouTube and any podcasting app out there. I always get the emails from Sprecher every month, and it's like you have 0 downloads of your show on Sprecher. I'm like, why do I do this? But the worst, it's not bad enough that I get something that says I had 0 downloads. The one time I get 1 download, the next time it says I was down -1. Like, that's not encouraging, man. So just put the show out. It'll be fine. People listen to it wherever they listen to it.
But yeah, listen to it. It's like you've got a lot of knowledge on how the political stuff works, but you've got obviously you got a lot of gun knowledge as well, which is a great combination.
Is what sets it apart.
I think it really does. Because sometimes you hear people talking politics, and I'm just like, oh man. And then you hear people, like you said, people that talk gun stuff, and they don't get how the other things work. So that's pretty cool. So let's talk about the reload. So you, what made you? Oh, I don't want to say what made you get out of writing for the Free Beacon and writing the other gigs, but
sure.
What was the decision that made you? What finally made you start to want to have your own outlet?
Yeah, I mean,
reload.
You know, the Free Beacon was fantastic. I was there for almost 7 years, and I got nothing but great things to say about them, for sure. It's just like any other outlet I've written for in the past. It just became a point where the business model has progressed now in journalism to where you can realistically start your own publication to be purely dedicated on
your stuff.
What you want to write about, and have that be a viable business because of the sort of flattening of the subscription model. Anyone can really get involved and start their own publication and start charging monthly subscription or yearly subscription for their work to help them be able to survive and support that kind of work. And so I saw that opportunity. I saw a lot of other people doing it, and I thought that it would work for me. And so that's what that's what made me take the jump and finally do it. Because I mean, like I said, I started in politics and journalism back in college by starting my own website then. Right. But back then it wasn't really viable to make a living off of it.
Sure.
And so that's what really changed more than anything else, is that it became more realistic that I could do this on my own. Right. And then I could build out a publication that I wanted, so I could hire other writers, which I've done, and editors, and work with them and try to expand my coverage. And so that's what really made me take the leap, is just the change of the business atmosphere in journalism. There's finally a new business model that actually works. It's not, I mean, now obviously it's not necessarily new. People have been paying subscriptions for news for a long time, years. It's just that it's become, you don't need to be a Pulitzer anymore. You don't need to buy gallons of ink and printing presses to accomplish that. Now you can start your own website, newsletter, and do it that way, and be more nimble and flexible and able to deliver the kind of information that people are looking for. And that's what we've been able to do so far with the Reload, and been able to break a number of exclusive stories that are very significant, and also write a lot of analysis pieces to help people inform the membership, especially of what is going on with these different situations, different news stories. The Supreme Court, the NRA, the Biden White House, and what they're doing with their executive orders on guns. All this stuff, we're able to now provide in-depth analysis to the membership who pay for it, because they're getting this extra benefit, but also they're the ones who are allowing all of the news reporting we do to stay free and to be available to everyone. So it's a great model, and it's worked out really well so far.
It's great. So you put a podcast out once a week?
Yes.
How often do you put out articles? Do you put out a couple a day? Do you put out a few a week?
Yeah, usually it's a couple a day. It varies on from week to week, but yeah. So we produce a significant amount of content for people, and we produce a weekly newsletter, a free newsletter that goes out every Friday that gives a roundup of what happened that week in guns. Yeah. And then we produce a Sunday newsletter for the members where they get exclusive access to additional information, additional analysis of what's going on, sometimes additional stories, additional details from something that we've reported on. Yeah. It's for somebody who wants to help the publication survive and also wants to take it to that next level of
they want to be a super fan, right?
But it's like they want to get that extra level of knowledge on the subject, right? Whether it's because they're investors in gun companies, or they're in the gun business, or they're in the activism side of things, or they're just somebody who cares a lot about their Second Amendment rights and wants to know what's going on with guns. They can subscribe and support the publication, keep it running, but also get an additional exclusive content that you can't get anywhere
you can't get somewhere else. That's great.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's gone.
The exclusive stuff. It's
By the way, there used to be an eagle, the bald eagle that lived right over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it a golf course? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a golf course that the presidents like to golf at that golf course. But yeah, there's some eagles live in these trees around here.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, the eagles really made a big comeback, so that you see them more often now. It's wonderful.
That's cool. That is cool. It's I think it's kind of funny when I think about the eagles. Sometimes I think about Ben Franklin wanting the turkey to be the national bird. You're like, really? Big stupid thing that doesn't get out of the road? That's going to be the national bird? Can't even fly.
Right.
How's it a bird if it doesn't fly? So the exclusive content that you put out on the Reload, it's not something like, it's just for those people. It's not something anything else that's gonna be released.
Yeah. I mean, like, we have a number of member exclusive.
Like maybe somebody gets a jump on the story and then it comes out later, but this is just the exclusive stuff.
Usually, the way it works is a lot of the news reporting is kept free and public, and then a lot of the analysis is kept for the membership, so they can get a better understanding of what's going on in the story.
Very cool.
But we will also occasionally publish analysis pieces for the public if it's particularly, something that I think people would want to get a taste of what the analysis is like. And sometimes we'll publish stories just for the members too. If it's something that's, maybe not as interesting to the general public, but could inform the members a little more, occasionally we'll do things that way too. Plus the members get early access to the podcast. They get to be on the podcast if they want.
I listened to that. I listened to one episode. You had a guy. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think it's fun to talk to the members and see who they are and why they subscribed and what makes them tick. Why they got into guns, why they care enough to subscribe to the Reload.
To get behind it.
That kind of thing. So that's another perk of being a member, is like you can be featured on the podcast if you're interested in that. You don't have to, obviously, but
that's a pretty cool part.
Yeah, and they get question and answer sessions. They can ask me anything. They get to comment. We don't have an open comment section, so the only comments on the Reload are from actual members, which I think helps keep the site more cordial and
Oh my gosh.
So, because
Totally.
YouTube, on YouTube,
man.
YouTube is crazy with engagement for comments. Though.
It's a little nuts.
You get 1,200 views and you'll get 50 comments, which is crazy.
Man,
People love to comment on YouTube, but unfortunately, a lot of people like to comment crazy things.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible things. So
yeah,
it's hard.
On the Gun Grab YouTube channel, for the Gun Grabs, the comment that I see most is, someone did this at my school, except without the trumpet. You're like, that's not even funny, man.
Yeah, so you gotta, to me, the Free Beacon didn't have any comments at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it seems like a lot of publications are moving away from comments, probably for the similar reasons of just like, it's hard to moderate them.
It's hard to moderate that stuff, yeah.
Because it's so hard, it would be really difficult to moderate just my YouTube comments, because there's just so many of them that come in. You'd have to hire someone to do it full time.
Right.
And that obviously, the cost of that doesn't make any sense. So, you either go with, I just think this is a better way to get a more informed kind of commenter, because if you're paying for the Reload and part of what you're paying for is the ability to comment, then you're probably not going to be a big troll.
Right.
Because
you're not going to spend money and then turn around and tell people they're idiots.
Right. And it's like, I want to foster a community that's engages with the content, but also and each other, but does so in a respectful way, so that people don't feel like they're not welcome at the site, just because they might disagree with someone else on some point about a policy or whatever. You know, you try to keep it as level-headed and reasonable as possible, and that's what we try to do with the whole site. You know, try to be level-headed and reasonable and sober, and take the gun issue seriously. Take reporting on it seriously. It's not meant to be a hot take factory, right? We don't publish opinion pieces. We publish analysis pieces where we're trying to give our honest view of what this means, whether we agree with how things turn out or not, right? Like, I'm trying to give people insight that's not just here's what I think should happen. You know, it's like here are the indicators that show like this will probably go this way, even if I would personally like to see it go this way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what we try to do different as well.
Very cool.
And that's what I've always tried to do with my whole career.
Yeah. All right, listen, I know we're in a rush to get back. Because you got another show.
I have to interview one of those members for the podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. How can people find you and the Reload and the podcast and the website and everything else?
Yeah, well, you can go to thereload.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter so you can get an idea of what it's like. You know, obviously you can hear me talk about it all day, but if you sign up for the free newsletter, you'll actually get to see, experience it yourself, and then decide for yourself if you think it's worth supporting with a membership, which you can buy. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. So you get 2 months off if you buy the year. There's also a lifetime membership for somebody who's particularly invested in trying to help the Reload survive. I mean, I'll be up front. Like, the Reload's been around for 6 or 7 months now, since April, and you know, when we first launched, we had a lot of people sign up for that lifetime membership, for the co-founders membership, which is $1,000 for life. But the reason that it's that much is to help the publication be able to survive long enough to build out a base of recurring members. Because there's no big investor behind any of this. This is my own money.
Right.
I was a journalist going into it, so I wasn't exactly making lots of money. So I don't have some big piggy bank out there. But those people, the lifetime members, the co-founders who signed up at the beginning to pay that $1,000, have really been the ones that have allowed the Reload to be financially stable through the first year or so, so that I don't have to scramble and try to come up with cash to keep the operation going.
Keep it going, yeah.
While I'm trying to build out the rest of the subscriber base. So those people are extremely important to what we're doing, and you know, I'm very thankful for their support. But so that's another option that people can do if they really believe in what we're doing. But you know, every member who subscribes, who pays for a membership, is hugely important to our survival and our continued journalism. And those are the people that I answer to. You know, I don't answer to any politicians or any activists or executives at gun groups or anything like that. I only answer to those people because those are the people that pay my salary, right?
Right.
We're not getting any money from anyone else. So
yeah, I remember reading a book about somebody that talked about starting your own business, and they're like, you know, you thought it was interesting that you had a boss that you had to answer to, but he says when you work for yourself, you have to answer to your customers. You have to answer like, if you can't make your mortgage payment, you've got to answer to those.
That's exactly right. I mean, I put everything on the line to do this in terms of my own financial security. Yeah. But it's working so far, and it's only because of the support of the members.
That is cool.
So
awesome.
I think it'll keep growing, and I think it's going to be successful in the long run.
I think so too.
I'm going to get over here.
Get the left or the right one?
The left.
All right.
But I'm confident that we're going to make it, and that we're going to. You know, this guy's.
You got the right of way. Yeah. Sorry, pal. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's the traffic circle here is weird, but the house is great.
Well, I'm gonna go check it out.
You should. But yeah, so I'm confident in where we're headed, and I'm grateful for the support that we've gotten so far.
Very cool. All right, well, listen, I thank you for being on.
Yeah.
I'm going to slow down before we drop him off. I might even stop. Thanks for being on the show. I'm glad that we finally got to do this.
Yeah.
I was flattered a couple of years ago when you said you'd be interested in being on the show, and I appreciate that. I thank you for being patient, for finally taking the time to get down to DC to make this happen.
Yeah, this was great. Glad you got to see our scenic
yes.
Northern Virginia here.
I know.
The nicer parts of it, not I-95.
A little more scenic.
Not the Beltway.
All right, before you leave, I want to give you a Riding Shotgun with Charlie sticker and patch. Add that to your collection of stuff.
These are fantastic. I really like the patch.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. I got them. I got them through Owl and Anchor, thanks to Pete from Gun Websites. So he was awesome with those. And the stickers are pretty cool. I decided to
little cartoon version of you.
Yes, I love the cartoon version of me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching the show. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Support the Second Amendment Foundation at saf.org. Their sister organization is the Citizens' Right to Keep and Bear Arms, the ccrbka.com. I think that's what that one is. You can find all of your favorite pro-freedom podcasts in one place at the sdrn.us. That's the Self-Defense Radio Network. Thanks for watching this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Stephen, thank you so much.
Hey,
I love running into you, and what I love about having my gun friends is that we see each other all over the country. Yeah. And I think it's really
Hopefully
cool.
that'll start happening again now that COVID's gone away, people are getting vaccinated and all that.
And getting out.
Start doing things again.
That would be great. Yeah. Cool, man. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.